Hello, guys and gals. Shinochi's here, and today I've decided to make a Vatu guide. And in this video, I will explain what I've learned over the days, over the hours of playing Vatu up to level 80 as of now.
Vatu.
And I will show you what I've learned. I'll give recommendations. You know, a guide. You know, a guide's a guide.
Timber.
Okay, so I'm in the shooting range now. And I guess while I'm here, these talents, I believe that Enveloping Shadows is the only good one. It could be just a preference, but here's why. Omnipresence is by far the best way to get in and out of a scenario if you wanted to. Hence the extra charge and the ability to use it on an ally. But my only issue with it is the fact that it's not Enveloping Shadows, and that I won't have ability cooldowns when I hit people. Same goes for Unearing. It's really good if you want your bombs to hit more consistently and more often, but the homing itself is strange in the way it acts. I wouldn't use it. I'd prefer using Omnipresence over this, but it's not necessarily bad. Because, well, the only reason that makes it bad for me is the fact that it's, once again, not Enveloping Shadows. Take it as you will. If you want to use Ambush a lot more, use Omnipresence. If you want to use your Shadow Bombs a lot more, use Unearing. But otherwise, even if you wanted to use Ambush and Bombs, I think Enveloping Shadows is the best way to go about it. Now, these builds. These are the builds I have currently. The Omnipresence build isn't too bad. Well, all default builds aren't too bad, but just like all default builds, they could be better. Like, for instance, if you wanted to use Ambush, don't use Retribution. It is a horrible card, in my opinion. There's no point in the radius increase. Once again, with everything that I say, it's not mandatory to go by what I say. You know, do as you will, but I highly do not recommend using Retribution. Final Sight, only good if you're using Omnipresence. If you're using Enveloping, it's pointless. With Unearing, if you're using Shattered Worlds, I would not put it at 5. If you have Enveloping. If you don't, then it's necessary. That's pretty much my only problem with this build. With Enveloping, if you're gonna use, it just depends on your Enveloping build, what you want to go by if you decide to use it. Like, for instance, this sort of does everything, which is what's wrong with it. It's got dash cooldown, got cooldown for Shadow Bombs, healing when you ambush, healing when you dash, a little bit more range to make ambush easier to hit. It does bombs and dashing and ambushing. You always want to focus on one or two aspects. You don't want to do tons of things at once, like any build with any character. So for this, for instance, I would remove Infiltration, I would lower Shadow's Perch, and I would up Contemplation to 3 and use the different cards with, you know, levels accordingly. Pretty interchangeable. Now onto my builds. This build, which I call Mobility, is what I believe Vatu's most mobile cards. Basically, being as mobile as physically possible with Enveloping anyway. Like I said before, Omnipresence is the best way to do that. But if I want to use Enveloping, this is the best way to go. Tranquility 5 is incredibly good if you want to dodge shots up close. I want to emphasize the up close part of it. If you're spamming Tranquility all the time, people are going to catch on, and they're going to adapt, and it will be pointless, useless, and it'll be easier to hit, if anything. Extraction 5 is incredibly powerful if you want to get away, turn a corner real fast. It's pretty good for that. Well, hence the name Extraction. It's kind of perfect for what I believe its use is. Everyone built at tier 5, once again, for the most mobility. I've found that Tranquility 2 is as low as you should go with Tranquility. Going any lower is a waste of a card slot. And Tranquility 2 is high enough, I've tested this in this very shooting range, is high enough to jump over a Cassie aimbot. Well, not aimbot. Cassie, autofire Cassie bot. It's high enough to jump over. Extraction 3 is also the lowest you can go for this. With Contemplation, if you go tier 5, do not expect invincibility. I've already went down that road. Do not expect invincibility. The healing is powerful. It does get stronger the higher you level it, but the downside being is that the healing numbers decrease and the timer increases. So you get more healing, but it takes longer to receive said healing, which is what makes it bad. You could do it if you wanted lots of healing on your dashes, but do not try to abuse it as you are invincible, constantly healing 70 ticks. Mathematically speaking, Contemplation 3 is the best version of Contemplation you can get. I wouldn't go any higher than that, but know the risks. Tier 1 Contemplation isn't horrible. You can run it as a filler if you have a dash build, but I would prefer at minimum tier 2. Now with this build, as you can tell, is dash spam. This is the build that I believe is the best for spamming dashes. And a common theme amongst my builds is Shadow's Perch 1, which is a very good filler, and also Deadly Dash 1. It's kind of this combo of Contemplation 3, Shadow's Perch 1, Deadly Dash 1. It's just a setup that I really like, and that way it's consistent amongst my builds, which is a really good build strategy. Take note. Take note for this. This pattern. There's a huge pattern amongst these two builds, especially. Now back to the build. Nightwatcher 5 is incredibly risky and useful. Tier 5 is kind of unnecessary, especially if you're using enveloping, because hitting the bombs will only give you half of a dash, meaning that you still have to hit the person like 2 to 3 times to get a dash out of it. If you wanted to spam your dashes using Nightwatcher, the lowest you can go is Nightwatcher 3, because I've once again done the math. It's good. Going any lower is a waste. Outnumbered is also kind of risky at tier 5. If you really had an ammo problem, it is the only ammo card, and putting it at tier 5 is really good for damage. Hence it refills your whole magazine. Just know that when you use Outnumbered 5, that when you get to 1 ammo, or actually 2 ammo, if you get to 2 ammo, here's the combo. You shoot once, animation cancel with bombs, and then immediately, as fast as the game will allow you, shoot the last shot. If you do this correctly, you will shoot all 5 of your shots in your magazine, and then refill 5 back, and then which you will have 5 more to use, which by the time you get that low again, if you aim well, or you have Shattered Worlds at like tier 4 in your build, and you get a kill, you can do the combo constantly. Which I don't have here, but the point was dash spamming. Just know, if you're going to use Outnumbered 5, make sure that you use all your shots by the time the bombs go out with that combo. So there's that. And then this ult spam build. I would not recommend using this until later, at least because I believe that the ult is a little bugged. where it would go through people when you're looking directly at them with no obstacles. And speaking of the ultimate, here's another tip. When you use the ultimate, know where you're gonna land or activate it before you land in front of something. Because if you land in front of like a tiny lip, like let's say you're on Ascension Peak, the point, those little ramps that both sides have to enter onto the point, if you land on that ramp and you're trying to use the ult on someone who's off to the left or right of the ramp, you will slide off the ramp and you will miss them, despite where you aim. Unless you got really lucky and the hitboxes, you know, all line up perfectly, but just know, do not use the ult unless you know where you're going to land, or you're going to know that nothing will get in the way, essentially. With Shadow Garrote, it does in fact stack. If you got a Ceres, or if the enemies line up perfectly, you can use the ult twice and guarantee their deaths. Just if you're going to use Shadow Garrote 5, you must hit your ult. If you decide to use it, you must know that it will land. Because if you miss, it's very detrimental to the entire build. This is why I don't recommend this until you're advanced enough to consistently hit your ultimate. I'd say do not try to spam your ult all the time. That's the whole point of this build with Deadly Dash 5 and Shadow Garrote 5, is to use my ult as much as possible. If you use your ult every moment you get, every time you have it up, it is kind of unhealthy. I would not recommend it, once again, unless you're advanced. Just keep that in mind. Aside from these cards, without number 2, do not go any lower than 2. Going any lower than 2 is a complete waste of a card slot. Contemplation 2, once again, because I recommend that higher. And then Shadow's Approach 1, once again, pretty good filler, because Ambush is incredibly hard to hit. Speaking of Ambush, landing Ambush is difficult, which is kind of an understatement. I could spam Ambush at someone within range and it would not work. If you're fighting someone here, you're doing your thing, you're trying to hit them, and they're shooting you, do not try to use Ambush to reposition to get the advantage over that target, unless your build had Tier 3 Gathering Shadow or higher, or Infiltrator 3 or higher. Because then, ambushing gives you a benefit. If you do not have any ambush benefits, rely on your dash to reposition and get the advantage on the target. If you don't do it. Because most of the time, you'll be spamming the button, and you can't strafe while spamming Q, or at least I can't. It's bad. It's bad. Don't do it. Don't do that. The easiest way to hit ambush is if the target does not know you're there, and it's like a sniper or someone who's just barely strafing in place. Because then, it's easier to hit. But if they're strafing, and you're panicking, and you're shooting them, you know, as it is, it would be kind of stressful. It most likely won't work. It can work if you had really good aim. Ambush is just too big of a skill shot right now. Do not try. Don't try to use it mid-fight. Unless it was your last resort. Now onto Shadow Bombs. I would try to recommend... Well, I would say that do not try to use your bombs to hit their feet. I do it sometimes. Like that. Because it guarantees that it will hit them instead of trying to hit them directly and having to worry of missing. But if you do that, chances are they will move and the damage will be mitigated at the very best. Well, best case scenario, you do 600 damage. But worst case scenario, you do nothing. Most of the time, you will do very little damage. So try to hit them directly. And to do so, ambush is the best way to do that. only do this on a target who doesn't know you're there, or you're confident in your ability to hit ambush mid-fight. Ambushing and spamming right-click. With the way ambush works, spamming right-click right after you activate will... Most of the time, chances are your bombs will stick. And as long as you stick one, you will have dealt 400 damage, which is nothing to scoff at when it comes to flankers damage. Dealing that 400 at the very worst is pretty big. Just like how ambush's damage is enough to kill people constantly if given the scenario. Another tip for shadow bombs: do not rely on its damage. I cannot stress that enough. Do not, I repeat, do not rely on shadow bombs' damage. Because if you do that, chances are they're going to be healed. They're going to heal themselves. You're going to miss. It's very unpredictable with how shadow bombs work. So if they're low, and you're thinking, oh, I stuck them, they're surely gonna die, like that. If they get healed, or if they dodge, or if they heal themselves, damage reduction, chances are that's gonna happen. So if you turn away to move on to your next target, or you emote, or whatever you're gonna do, if they live, it'll be incredibly embarrassing, or the target will escape, or both. So don't rely on its damage. Use it and try to hit them, but do not expect it to work. Never expect everything you're gonna do is gonna work. Of course, you should have the mindset that you got this, you're gonna kill this person. Of course, I'll say that's a good mindset to have. But don't expect your bombs to work. Expect things to go bad. Like, prepare for the worst. If they live, then you'll be ready to follow up with a kunai shot. Sometimes this does happen, where you kill them with the kunai, and then the bombs blow up, and they would have died, because they wouldn't have gotten healed. That doesn't matter if you kill them with the bombs. There's no glory in killing someone with ambush or bombs. Don't try to think that you're cool because you killed someone with your bombs after they dodged, or after they moved around a corner, and you think you're amazing. Don't try to be that guy. Don't try to kill someone with bombs. Don't try to kill someone with ambush. Well, unless challenges appear in the future, something like that. That might be more understandable. Don't try to do that on the regular. Do it. Proceed with caution. When you try to do that, proceed with extreme caution. But even then, I would not recommend relying on those small bits of damage. Just expect that they will not die. Try to hit them anyway. And if you miss, then the bombs will connect. If they survive the bombs, then you tried your best. And that's that. Now, onto the kunai. The projectile pattern is incredibly strange. They go up. And it doesn't seem like anything, and you probably won't notice it. But that slight incline, when they first leave your hand, comes in play. I have missed shots by aiming too high with Vatu, let alone aiming too low. So know that the pattern is a little wavy. So it goes up a tiny bit. It goes up a tiny bit that even if I was aiming at his head, at the right distance, it could go over. And on with the wavy pattern, the kunai have a heavy arc. Incredibly heavy. And the spread is dramatic. If you got someone at a great distance, the kunai will be way off to their sides. And even if it does spread and it makes it easier to hit moving targets horizontally, chances are it will still miss. Once again, don't rely on all of those little bits of damage. The best distance at which you can hit all three kunai is about this far. It's pretty generous, but the spread is big. It goes upwards, and it has a heavy arc. A lot heavier than Maeve, which people compare Vatu and Maeve a lot. And I want to set this aside before we move on. Maeve is a good champion. Do not think that Maeve is irrelevant because of Vatu, and don't think Vatu is irrelevant because of Maeve. Vatu is not Maeve 2.0. I see this a lot, and I saw this when Vatu came out. Everyone's saying that Vatu is Maeve 2.0. That is not true. They are different champions. They all have upsides and downsides. Play what you will. They all have their own play styles. But don't be hating on Maeve mains. Don't be hating on Vatu mains. Vice versa. They are different champions. Anyway, it's a lot heavier arc than what Maeve has. So if you're a Maeve main like I was, you're gonna have to get used to how much heavier this arc gets at range. I would not recommend sniping someone with Vatu unless you have enveloping shadows. If you have enveloping shadows, it's fine if you have like a cooldown you want to get up. Like especially dash, if you like using dash a lot like I do. If you have like even one charge missing, you want to hit someone at a range, so by the time you move up, you'll have it. So it's almost like getting a free dash from like before the fight even starts, and a little damage. But I would not recommend it. It's hard to hit. It does 150. Yeah, just don't snipe with Vatu. Only shoot at someone if you think all 3 kunai are gonna hit. Don't try to only hit 2. Don't try to hit 1. Try to shoot. Shoot to think that all 3 would connect. And of course, all 3 won't always connect. And don't always try to be so hell-bent on trying to hit all 3. And if you want to work with distance, like trying to reset your cooldowns with enveloping, you could try to get used to Shadow Bomb's auto-detonate distance, where if a target's at a certain distance and you shoot your bombs, it'll blow up in their face, dealing the full damage with no delay. It's a really good ranged attack to initiate a fight, because if I hit them at this distance and then I move up, tons of burst can come out of it. So you could try to get used to that. Now, Nightfall. Nightfall is, I believe, incredibly weak if you try to use it at tier 5. Not tier 5. Use it at full charge. If you tried to fully charge the ult to hit someone at a long range, it charges way too slow, and the voice line, and you glow, and if they know where you are especially, they will move, and they will be out of range, and it will not work. Never fully charge to hit someone on purpose. Never do it on purpose. It's too slow. It's too wacky. Don't try it. Nightfall is best used when it's instantly cancelled. Which is, it's the same distance as dashes. So you could get used to that. So if you spam E, or whatever your ult activation key is, that's the best way to use it. Because it casts so quickly that the only way that they can avoid your ult is if you're just barely out of range, which happens with Maeve, and Maeve with her pounce and Vatu with his ambush. They could move accidentally or be slightly out of range. They can never claim that they did it on purpose, because it's just so hard to tell because it happens so quickly. If you spam it, they could just so happen to move out of the way, or it could go through people, or the hitboxes could just barely be out of range. Like I said before, it's difficult to consistently hit unless you're really good at it. But that's the best way to do it, in my opinion, to spam it if you know it's gonna hit. A secondary option, which is just as good, if not slightly better, is to charge it a tiny amount. Just a tiny itty bitty bit. If they're at a good distance and you know that spamming it will not hit them, you could charge it for about a half second longer. So it'll be about 1 second, 1.5 second ult charge. And the range will reward you.
Your light flickers.
Like that, except I did it wrong.
I will make sure.
Get used to that distance, get used to the charging. Charging it slightly can really help with getting a kill.
Your light.
See, that's the preferred distance. By the time you turn around, they'll be about this far away. That's always good because then it's hard to miss so long as you're patient with it. And that's what you should know about Nightfall's follow-up. Is that the stun, for all you new Vatus out there, the stun will last long enough for you to hit a kunai burst at the very minimum. Even if they have resilience. You can hit one at the very minimum. Be patient enough to smoothly and accurately turn around your cursor, hit them with the burst combo with animation cancel. If they don't move enough, and if you have good enough aim, you can kill them with the next shot, which I would have, but he healed. You can hit them and kill them with the next shot. It can kill someone at full HP. I would not recommend trying to kill someone at full HP unless it's like a healer and you know you can take them out, or it's like a pick that you need to have. That's when you hit someone full HP, but I'd recommend that before you ult, you hit them with one shot, then ult. Because after that, the burst animation cancel will kill. If you're using Outnumbered 2, it's a good idea to have it at 2, which is a really good filler if you have an extra point you don't know what to do with, and you kind of want some ammo in there. The burst combo, the animation cancel, supports it greatly. So you do it like this, and by the time you hit them, they will die if you hit all 3, and your ammo will be unchanged. Which is also really good if you have Shattered Worlds. Shattered Worlds isn't a bad card, but by itself, and if you're not using Enveloping, it's necessary anyway, but it's pretty terrible. So keep that in mind when you want to use Unearing. If you kill someone, it'll only have a 4-second reduction. It's pretty bad. If you're using Enveloping, it's great. Proceed with caution when using those other 2 talents. That's why I don't recommend them. Vatu's health pool compared to other flankers is on the lower side. He has the second lowest HP, base HP in the game. His max health card is terrible. I would not recommend using it at any higher than 1. Unless the whole point of your build is to stand still longer, then it's pretty much the only choice you have. The damage reduction cards that Vatu has are both pretty bad. Actually, they're both horrible when used together. Gathering Shadow is really good if you have an ambush build. Use that stuff at tier 5. It's amazing. The concept and the way of how ambush works, Gathering Shadow perfectly negates the downside of ambush. Ambush being that when you teleport to someone and they're shooting you, like I've mentioned before, this is why I say you should have Gathering Shadow or Infiltrator, or both. They can have an easy, if they can headshot you, if the champion allows it, they can have some easy, hard-hitting damage, high and hard-hitting damage on you. So easily, because of the way ambush works. And how ambush works, when you activate it on someone, it'll teleport you in the same way your cursor moves. So you don't have to move your cursor to compensate for teleportation, unless you can predict the direction that the enemy is moving. Which you need to get good at this the more you play Vatu, because it is an incredible tool that when you use ambush, you can hit the follow-up burst damage or kunai burst. So that you need to know in the direction that they're moving midway. So you need to know that by the time that when an ambush goes off, you need to turn your cursor like whichever direction that amount, so that to compensate for their dodging or their movement, to hit them with the follow-up. And it'll always work in the direction that you're facing. So if you're behind them, you'll teleport directly behind them. If you're in front of them, you'll teleport directly in front of them. It won't change your position or your cursor position to when you activated it to the target. It'll teleport you directly to them in the same direction and in the same position as when you activated it. See, I'm looking directly on this guy. It'll teleport me directly into him. I'm looking directly behind this guy. It'll teleport me in the same angle with the same cursor position. It will not move. The only thing that you do have to move is to compensate for their movement to whatever direction. When it comes to a dash build, I've learned this because I used dash as my main builds. Do not spam your dashes all the damn time. You will run out of dashes incredibly fast. You will run out of dashes incredibly quickly. Try not to spam it. Use it constantly, hence that's the build, but don't spam it. Don't be doing this.
That's 11 in a row.
It's a good strategy to kill someone who can kill you real fast, like a Corvus. I do that to Corvus a lot. It's a good strategy to avoid their damage, and also how dashing goes through the target. It's a good strategy to avoid damage, but don't spam it. Don't make that a habit. Use your dash occasionally. So I dash to this person, do that, do the little burst combo, and then dash again. Doing it like that. You use dashes constantly like that. Don't spam it. Don't use it every chance you get. Use it every chance that you need that reposition or healing to avoid something, to hit a better shot, to get a better angle. You know, use it when necessary. Have good ability management when it comes to using dash like this. And you could argue that you don't need dash cooldown resets if you conserve your dashes. If you're going to use it in this manner, you will need more cooldown reduction. And enveloping will not help. Enveloping shadows alone cannot support this, even if you had good aim. Because the targets will move, you may miss, chances are you will miss. Unless you can always guarantee your shots, then it might. I can't say that because it's, well, not possible. For me, anyway. I can't see anyone who could always hit their shots to make it viable. Chances are 90% sure with it just alone to use this playstyle. You need some sort of cooldown reduction. You need at least tier 3 Night Watcher. At least. Because with that, and you do that burst combo, so this won't work, but if you, let's say, you use a dash, you hit them, you do this, you do the combo, by the time those bombs go off, you will have that same dodge, that same dash that you did at the start. It's like you never used it. That's with tier 3. That works at the very least. Unless you're like me and you use the dashes a lot still, having that 2-second reduction will get your dashes noticeably quicker. Just know how it works. Know how it works and know what you're running into when you're using tier 5. And, well, with that, I can say that that's all I can provide as of now, as I can think of. I might make another part, might make an episode 2 of how to play Vatu the Shadow better than ever. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.